Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another Steven Universe review. In this episode, we're taking a look at Season 5, Episode 28, Escapism. For those who aren't in the know, this episode, we've known about it for about a year now, give or take. Because we knew, there's a Steven Universe podcast, I don't listen to it, I know nothing about it. But in it, we got this song, Escapism. So we knew the song was coming, and we knew an episode of the same name was coming. And during that, give or take a year, I don't honestly remember, we built up some expectations for the episode based on the song, what we expected the episode to be about, how we thought it was going to play out. And yeah, no, that's not what happened. I mean, statistically, there is probably someone who got it right, who figured this was what's going to happen. Which, yes, we shouldn't judge an episode based on our expectations going into it, but ignoring the expectations and the hype and the build-up would be naive. So just know that bias exists. With that, let's get into the actual episode. So we start off, Stevani's in jail right where we left off, and together alone. They're stuck. They try to bust their way out with shields and whatnot. Nothing's working. They find a window in there in the tallest room, or in there... what is it? The tallest room of the tallest tower? Whatever, you know, it's a Rapunzel tower, basically. Or, I was trying to reference Shrek, but I can't remember the actual line, don't at me. And Steven just gives up. Like, he admits, we should have never come here. What's the point of this? Yeah, a lot of... I kind of noticed this as well. It's kind of Connie's fault they're in here in the first place, because she just is like, oh, you're not having fun here. Let's dance. And of course, when they dance, they fuse. I don't think they intended to fuse. That's just a natural response to them dancing. But it is kind of Connie's fault they're there, but Steven's he's given up hope, basically. But of course, he's still our lovable little cinnamon bun. He's not just going to completely give up all hope. So he almost falls asleep, and then he's like, oh yeah, I have psychic ghost powers. I can just use my psychic ghost powers to tell somebody else what's going on. You know, that makes sense. So he uses his psychic ghost powers, and he's going to head to Earth to tell somebody, but he rushes it, so he ends up on Earth. He doesn't end up where he wants to be, presumably, but instead ends up in one of the watermelon people, kind of like Super Watermelon Island from the beginning of Season 3. So he goes around the island, and now everything has a star in it, right? Steven, the crystal gem star, and he finds the baby melon, and people are still worshipping the baby melon, but Steven doesn't have time for this. He needs to get back home, so he jumps off the cliff where they tried to sacrifice him to Malachite. Well, they did once, actually. But he can't get away, and it's around this time that you realize what this episode is going for. This is one of those artsy-fartsy, no-talking episodes where they're trying to convey a story with little to no dialogue. And I don't consider the dialogue in the beginning. It goes on for just a few seconds, and there's a little bit of dialogue at the end. Okay, a few seconds is a little bit of an underestimate, but you get my point. It's trying to be an episode that conveys a story without talking. These can be good. These can be fun. Another example is I remember the BoJack Horseman episode Fish Out of Water did something similar, and I remember liking that one, but I also remember that episode going on for like an hour, even though it's only 26 minutes. Another similar-ish example is Breaking Bad's Fly episode, which, yeah, no, that when I first was watching Breaking Bad while it was airing, that was the reason I gave up on the show. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, man. That Fly episode, that's something else. So doing something like this, doing an episode without talking, can be very hit and miss. And because of that, I know this is going to be divisive. Some people are going to say, oh, right, I like the artistic choice. I like how they're doing it like this. Because, I mean, we've seen the watermelon before. They can't talk, so it makes sense to do it like this. But it's also, you're stuck in the watermelon. I feel like they could have had a lot of fun with, like, Steven jumping around with people, or like jumping from mind to mind, eventually trying to find his way to the gyms, or something like that, or even jumping around Homeworld and getting people's opinions on Homeworld. That was how I was expecting an episode this episode to go just purely based on its description, which is like Steven uses his psychic mind powers to find help or something like that. So yeah, I'll admit, it's not what I expected. But he realizes that to get away, he's going to have to build a boat. Okay, this would have been the perfect time for the dinghy. If you remember, the gyms had like a boat that only shows up in one episode, Cat Fingers. It would have been really funny if he found the boat washed up on the shore. I would have liked that. But no, we'll never see that again. So he's walking around the island because he's going to build a boat. And to set him apart, they give him like a leaf headband. Okay, right, that's a fine choice to do it. But again, it's still just no talking as he's going to collect stuff. Eventually, he gets kidnapped by a group of warriors. And we see another statue in a completely different village. But this time they're worshipping Steven and the watermelon dog. Based on, again, the battle with Malachite from Super Watermelon Island. So basically this episode is trying to comment on religion. At least religion's how I'm interpreting it. Because you have the melon people who are the traditionalists who worship baby melon based on what happened in the original Watermelon Steven episode. And then you have a completely different faction that broke off and became a brand new religion based on what happened in Super Watermelon Island. And both factions are arguing. There's religious warfare, and the Baby Melon tribe is peaceful, but the Steven post Super Watermelon Island faction is like fight. It's religious commentary, and I'll admit it's kind of sloppy. And I know there's other ways you can interpret it, like how people... It's just commenting on how people exist and what they choose to worship, or how they live their lives based on the events that happen in their lives. Kind of works, but it's kind of sloppy. For an episode with no talking, it's trying to tackle a complex issue, but because you can't actually say anything, they have to do it through words, and some of it's kind of neat. Again, the fight over who gets to control Steven, because they realize Steven is special. But I don't think it works entirely, because Steven's able to escape. Also, I feel like it was done better by, of all things, Rick and Morty, with the cone nipple people and the circle nipple people. I feel like in a lot less time, they did it a lot stronger. But hey, that's just me. So Steven's so he starts to build a boat, but he finds it hard. But eventually one guy from the Baby Melon religion and one guy from the, what do I even call it? The Battle religion are able to team up and help Steven build a boat. And basically, again, it's commenting on, if I take in the religion commentary, these people, they also get these leaf headbands. So all Steven did was start a third religion, which is theoretically dividing people even more, but it may also be combining the two religions because the other leaders of the other religions show up, and they steal the cape and the giant spear from them to make the boat. So he could be uniting the island, he could just be dividing things even more, making a third religion. It's hard to tell. Again, they have to do a lot here without talking. But Steven's able to sail away, and now he can get to his friends. But, of course, he gets stuck in a storm, because what episode wouldn't have a character riding on a boat without them getting stuck in a storm? It's such a cliche at this point. I am kind of tired of it, admittedly. It's just, you could have just had him sail, and he's going to come across a watermelon shark here in a minute. Just have him come across the watermelon shark. You don't need a storm. They just did it because they felt like they were required to. At least that's the feeling I get out of it. But yeah, he comes across a watermelon shark, which I get why the watermelons became Stevens, right? Because of the whole grows can create sentient plant life. But what's making the watermelons into... We've seen the watermelon dog. There's a watermelon bird, and now a watermelon shark. How are these things being made? Do two watermelon Stevens have a baby melon, and that baby melon becomes a shark? Is that how this works? Again, something else that did it better. Clown with a Chance of Meatballs 2. I don't know if people talk about that movie much. I remember liking it. The first one's actually pretty good, but I remember the second one being fine. And yeah, it did the whole food animal thing, and well, it's kind of weird. I think it did it fine, and it makes more sense than just a watermelon shark showing up for no reason. And I mean, he just destroys Steven's boat. Because another big theme of this episode is that, right, at the beginning, Steven's given up hope, so now throughout the episode, he's just being hit with everything, right? The people of the baby melon religion won't help him. The people of the war religion just want to keep them to himself. He's unable to build a boat, and now he's shipwrecked at sea, right? The world is fighting against him, but he's got determination. He's going to push on. And yeah, he's lost at sea for a while, until Lion eventually finds him. I'm assuming psychic ghost connection or something. Because it's basically Deus Ex Machina at this point. And while Lion rescues him, we start hearing a guitar in the background, and we see on the beach, it's Greg's guitar. And that's where the song Escapism cuts in. I don't think it fits the scene. Honestly, it kind of just comes out of nowheres, and it doesn't really fit with what's going on. Because, okay, yes, literally, it's like, it's someone who's stuck, right? They don't want to be where they are. They're in an uncomfortable situation. They want to be free, but they can't. And yes, that is technically where Steven is in, right? Because, again, he's trapped in a jail cell. But I don't think just the way they used it in this episode, I don't think works. Because I know leading up to this, there was a lot of different ways people were expecting it to go. Was White Pearl gonna sing it? Were the Pebbles gonna sing it? I think, I bet somebody said that. Was Pink Diamond gonna sing it, right? Who was gonna sing Escapism? Instead, it's nobody, but it's also, I think the actual singer is whoever voices, I want to say Stevani, but then the chorus is done by Stephen and Connie or something. It's something weird like that. The one I liked the most was the idea that, much like Jungle Moon, which is probably the reason why they didn't do it, because they already did the idea in Jungle Moon, but while Stevani was fused, they had a flashback to Pink Diamond being locked in this jail cell. So it was Stevani singing the song, but in actuality, it was Pink Diamond because this was a mental flashback thing. I always liked that idea. That was the one I was leaning towards the most. But no, instead it's just Steven doing like charades and whatnot to tell Bismuth, Greg, and Lion what's actually going on. He tries drawing a picture and it doesn't work. And then he just sends a message like, "Help, we need backup." And yeah, because again, he wants to be free. He's stuck. All the gems are poofed. Again, this arc is just hitting him down because he's lost all the gems he cares about. But even though I'm complaining about how the song is actually used, I still think I like the song. I've listened to it about 100 times, and I think it is good. I'll have to get back to you on that. And outside of that idea I had with the Pink Diamond, another way, I was thinking, like, oh, you know how else they could have used this? As an end credit theme. I made a companion video that should be up at the same time this goes up. YouTube may copyright strike it down, so I'll work around with it. But it's basically how I would have used escapism. It'll be called something like that, like how to properly use escapism or something like that. But it's right, I feel like there's a better way to do escapism than what we got here. But I don't mind, right, that Steven needs backup and he's coming to Earth to get it. I do wonder, how are they going to get to space? I mean, yes, they have Blue Diamond and Yellow Diamond's ship, but there's also been no indication that they know how to fix something like that. And we also don't see Peridot and Lapis haven't regenerated, even though we know Lapis can get to Homeworld through flying, and we know Peridot has knowledge of ships. So it kind of makes me wish there was an episode in between this one and Battle of Heart and Mind that was, again, that Lapis and Bismuth episode I've been wanting for so long now. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, or if it does, it's going to happen during Battle of Hearts and Mind. Even though I kind of doubt it. It's complicated, to say the least. And yeah, that's where the episode ends. Steven fades out of the Melon's mind, and they've got this. Again, doing it all without dialogue. And we end off with one last line that's like, we'll see if they got this, right? We'll just wait and see. And yeah, that's where the episode ends. I think it's okay. I have for like silent storytelling, because it's only 11 minutes, that's a lot better than Breaking Bad's 45. Or, well, and again, I can like artsy fartsy episodes like this, right? They can do some neat stuff. I mean, there are sounds and whatnot. It basically sounds like a Banjo-Kazooie game. But I don't hate it. Like, I have seen tons of worse episodes in this show. But I also don't love it. Like, there are just some choices that are weird. I still don't know. I like Escapism as a song. I just don't like how it's used here. I feel like there's a lot of different ways they could have tackled this episode that just didn't happen. Right? Which could have been an oversight. Is this just the best way to do it? Because it's weird to see the Melons back. I'll admit, like, I know I can see why we weren't done with them after Super Watermelon Island. But much like the Human Zoo, if we had never seen it again after that episode, I don't really have much complaints. I honestly can't. In some ways, I think it might be for the better. Also, I know some people are going to complain that this is, filler. But, filler's healthy. And also, I know there's a thing where as you're building up towards rising action, or when you're dealing with action, sometimes it's nice to give a respite, right? Give a little room to breathe before you get into this massive thing. With TVs, I'll admit it doesn't work as well because there's hiatuses. There's time between episodes for you to get that cool down naturally, whereas a movie, you're sitting there and watching it for like 2 hours, or a video game, you could be playing it for 20. But I get this is probably also trying to do something similar, where it's giving you that time to chill after what happened in Together Alone in preparation for what's going to happen in Battle of Heart and Mind. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.